Hello, everyone. Wesley's here reporting for Ghost Cult Magazine, and with me, I have the pleasure of having Haken's lead vocalist Ross Jennings, who is going to talk to us about his upcoming solo album, A Shadow of My Future Self. How are you doing, Ross?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you. Thank you for your time. Let's talk about the album. Let's talk about A Shadow of My Future Self. There's
Yeah.
definitely a different approach, music-wise, right? From where we're used to listening from Haken and this particular album. Can you tell us about this process, this writing process of this particular set of songs?
Yeah, sure thing. It's obviously very far removed from the prog metal stuff that I've been doing over the last 10 years. Obviously with Haken and also Novena, my side project band who've been doing a lot of heavy stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of weird talking to you about my pop album on a death metal magazine or webzine, but it's cool. I think most people are very open-minded nowadays with so much music available to everyone.
For sure.
And I had this itch I wanted to scratch really, where I wanted to touch on a few other kind of areas of rock music which didn't necessarily fit with the stuff that Haken do. So really just a different creative outlet for me. And the pandemic presented itself an opportunity for me to spend a bit of time and make that a reality.
For sure. I read somewhere that you actually spent more time with the songs on your backlog than actually writing these songs, right?
I've had a few in the works just purely out of pleasure, just playing guitar for myself in the past, and so a couple, two or three of those tracks made it to the final record. But at the same time, yes, I just found myself back in April, May 2020 with just a flood of inspiration that just came through, and so yeah, it all kind of happened very quickly. At that time, then they're piecing it all together then. So yeah, it's a very organic experience.
And how about the influences? What would you say were basically the main influences that were around the composition of these songs?
For sure, yeah. More towards the stadium rock, American rock kind of vibe going for on this record. Although there's a few elements of other things that are interjected into there. It's a lot. It's more Coldplay than Meshuggah, let's say. But
Right.
no, that's I'm just joking, really. But there's some kind of classic rock songs on there which kind of pay more tribute to bands like Journey, Whitesnake, Kiss, that kind of things that you'd probably typically hear. Less complicated, big anthems that you'd hear in an arena. That's the kind of vibe I was going for. Yeah.
And these kind of bands are bands that you're constantly listening to, or this is just aside from Ross Jennings that you just want to give that or have that give away a little bit?
Yeah, just a side outlet with them. I listen to so much music. You know me, I have a collection of CDs which is about 6,000 strong. And I listen to all sorts of genres. So for me, it was really a playlist of stuff that I really enjoy listening to, just channeled through myself, my own sort of singer-songwriter approach. If I had some prog metal stuff, to be honest, it didn't belong on this record. I would have just done another Haken record, But
For sure.
This is deliberately a separate entity. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And also like the fact of having so many influences, whenever you go back to Haken or, any of the prog metal influences, bands or influenced bands, adding this definitely adds a layer of different, interesting music, stuff that you were not normally listening on a metal song, but, you have
Yeah.
this poppy or
Yeah,
this jazz stuff.
for sure, yeah, and people are going to hear a different side to me, and that's cool. That's what it was about. All it was all about. But that's not to say things like that didn't make it onto Haken Records. We even touch on kind of influences of like Muse and Foo Fighters on the new Virus record. It's all there. Right. It's all interweaved in some way. But with the solo record, it was a bit more on the nose. A little bit more obvious that it was influenced by things, particular styles of music.
For sure. And I also heard that there's a lot of brass, there's a lot of wind instruments. Can you talk to us about that?
That's true. Yeah, this kind of happened when I was demoing And nowadays you have these banks of different sounds and plugins, which I just got my one little keyboard here, and I can just put in all this whole orchestra.
Right.
So the brass sound was something that was appealing to me at the time of writing, and when I was demoing everything, it just felt right to put these elements in. And I was lucky enough to find a brass trio through
Nice.
the drummer I used on the record, Simon Sandnes, very well known in Norway, and he's in a group with some this brass group called Bless Mafian. I think I pronounced that correctly. And they helped me out on this record on a few tracks, which I thought really brought a new, fresh element to the Ross Jennings repertoire.
For sure, it's always interesting. I think brass instruments are like taking over a little bit the rock and metal genre in this up like the past few years. We've been hearing more and more records, particularly with sax more than anything. So it's very interesting to see.
Hearing a lot of new saxophone and a lot of new music too. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it wasn't really a conscious thing. It was just something that happened organically, and it just sounded really cool at the time with these particular tracks. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I personally think that's usually the best way when things come around, when they come out organically in that sense. Now moving forward to actually playing songs live. In July, you played the Acoustic Shadows live stream event. I want to ask you about that experience, because obviously, you're playing your solo material versus, the whole experience of actually getting ready for a Haken tour, and, the difference between a live stream event and the actual live gig with a live audience.
Yeah, it was a new experience for me in the sense that I was definitely put on the spot with all these cameras rolling, and that's not something I've been that practiced in. Obviously, Haken have done a few shows with cameras in the distance where you can't see them, but
right.
When you've got that studio setting and the red light is on in your face, you start to build up a sweat real quick, and you don't want to make a mistake really. You get one shot to get it right.
Yeah.
And it's not particularly complicated what I was doing, but you still get that red light syndrome, where you're just suddenly put on the spot, and even the easiest sort of D minor chord can be you could feel wooden suddenly. It's a real thing. It takes a lot of practice. But I felt I got through it okay. I was quite happy with that, and completely different approach to like rehearsing for a Haken show. Absolutely. With those rehearsals, you have your fellow bandmates to bounce off and fall back on, and if things go wrong, there's a support group there. If you're on your own doing an acoustic show, it's a lot more pressure.
For sure. And how about the whole concept of the live stream events? Obviously, this is pretty much like an universal answer about people wanting, or musicians preferring the live stream, or I'm sorry, the live experience rather than the live stream. So in your case, what's your stance in the whole live stream?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, with this particular one I did, it was a pre-recorded show, but we treated it as if it was going out live, and that's one thing. The other element was that there was no audience there to feed back off, so again a real change of atmosphere, which made it a little bit more uncomfortable. But I just felt like I treated it as if it was like I was on a TV show or something, and I was just performing in a studio to a fake studio audience or something like that. You have to find ways in your mind to look look past these things. But you can't replace the live audience at all. I mean, in my opinion, that's just paramount to a good live show.
For sure, and particularly Haken has very hardcore fans. I know that every time I have a few of my friends going to a Haken show, they're like completely ready to lose their minds. So,
oh, damn right, yeah, and so they should. It's wild. It's wild. The music's just exhilarating and in the live setting. So it's the perfect place to let loose.
For sure, for sure. And now I want to talk about Haken. Now I want to talk about Haken. I want to talk about the specific place where proc rock and proc metal it's at right now. In the past few years, we've seen that Haken's popularity has continuously increased, backed up with really good, solid albums. And right now, I would dare to say Haken is definitely one of the top names in the genre. Can you tell us how do you feel about that? The whole process of seeing how the band has progressed in the past, I don't know, 10 years. And what do you think about the current state of prog rock and prog metal with, the all the amazing bands are out there and obviously the legendary bands they're still kicking it after all these
Yeah.
years.
So first of all, it's been a glorious experience. It's very hard seeing things in a particular perspective when you're on the inside,
Right.
and you've been growing this thing from the ground up, for the best part of 15 years. So for me, it's absolutely fantastic that we're now in a place where we're going to be headlining these great London venues, which we could only dream of doing, and touring US, touring the whole of Europe, and getting critical acclaim, and even musicians that we'd been looking up to for many years respecting us. That's just phenomenal.
For sure.
You can't replace it. So proud of what we've achieved and the position we're in, and we're still humbly aiming higher and looking to expand that. So it's even though it's been a decade or more,
Right.
where I feel like we're still at the beginning. It's a bizarre concept, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that's one thing. The genre as a whole is flourishing. I see it around me, and the creativity is phenomenal, and all these bands that we should be threatened by, but we love it all. We love it. We want everyone to succeed, and I can't get behind people that moan about stuff on the internet, because this is what we wanted, like progressive metal to be a mainstream, and it's getting there slowly, but it's there's a big scene for it now.
For sure. And that's one particular thing about this genre and the whole community aspect of it.
Yeah,
You even though the famous proc snobs are, you have the internet trolls and all that stuff, but aside from that, whenever you have either the big name bands or the bands that are beginning, there's a big support community in there, and that's what I think it maintains everything alive and even more interesting for sure.
yeah. I just remember like being a kid and being a massive fan of Dream Theater, and like no one had heard of them, and I was like, what? And it was just our dream to make this band like super famous, and now they are, and I can't get behind the complaints that I see online sometimes about their output. It's just baffling to me. It's like, well, this is what we wanted. We
Yeah.
wanted Dream Theater to represent us and be the big guys and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Anyway, and so yeah, we're trying to fly the flag from the UK and do the same thing and grow and become a huge band eventually. Well, that's the dream.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely in the right path for sure. I'm very excited to see. I've been following you particularly since the mountain and seeing how you guys have been progressing and the level that you are right now. Last week you announced, or yeah, the band announced that you guys are touring with Symphony X. So that's
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah.
that's a big step. How do you feel about that?
I'm nervous because Russell Allen's one of the best singers to have walked the earth.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to learn a lot from this dude. But yeah, I've got to up my game and give it my best as well. So yeah, no, that aside, really cool to be standing alongside these guys. They were huge influences on us as individual musicians because they're just such fantastic players.
For sure.
So yeah, it's to have that, to see the Haken name alongside Symphony X is so cool to us.
For sure, being the direct support is just
Yeah,
something out of a
yeah,
dream for sure.
it's gonna be a killer night. Definitely do
You're
come
gonna
along.
be
Yeah.
you're gonna be watching Symphony X every night.
Yeah, there's plenty of touring being penciled in for Haken next year. Not just US, but Europe and elsewhere. Just trying to lock down those plans, really. Keeping an eye on the kind of regulations that are still in place to cross many borders. In a way, we don't really know if some of these tours are actually going to happen or not, but we'll see. We just have to keep faith.
Yeah.
Novena have just released an EP, which is kind of loosely based on the 11th Hour album we did as well. So there's some cool music there. We're doing a launch show for that next week in London, and and the future of that band, it will be there, producing stuff in the background, and hopefully we'll do some more live shows with those dudes as well. So I'd love to come to the US actually, and North America and elsewhere, to show people Novena as well, because it's a different beast altogether. Still kind of in its infancy, but it's as powerful as Haken in many ways musically, I would say. And with the solo stuff, it's again another strand. I just kind of balance all these projects, see where they lead. But I'd love to think that could be as successful at some eventually as well. So I really hope to perform that music as not just acoustically, but with a band at some point. Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Ross. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Just make sure, everyone, that you pick up Ross Jennings' solo album, A Shadow of My Future Self, out on November 19th. Just keep on the loop on all of his projects. We're going to leave all the links in the description. And Ross, again, thank you so much. It's definitely been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for your support. Yeah, do buy the album and support me, and let it be your guilty pleasure for the year.